Yeah, the power of poetry is that everybody experiences it differently. There are no rules for what makes a great poem. Understanding it isn't just about metaphor or meter. Instead, a great poem is one that resonates with us, that challenges us, and that teaches us something about ourselves and the world that we live in. As Rita Dove says, if poetry doesn't affect you on some level that cannot be explained in words, then the poem hasn't done its job. Also known as, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. That's a little ad lib there. For thousands of years, people have been drawn to poetry in a very personal way, including me. In the spirit of full disclosure, I actually submitted a couple of poems to my college literary magazine, and you will be pleased to know that I will not be reading them tonight. But as a nation built on freedom of expression, poets have always played an important role in telling our American story. It was after the bombing of Fort McHenry during the War of 1812 that a young lawyer named Francis Scott Key penned the poem that would become our national anthem. The Statue of Liberty has always welcomed the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Soldiers going off to fight in World War II were given books of poetry for comfort and inspiration. And whenever our nation has faced a great tragedy, whether it was the loss of a civil rights leader, the crew of a space shuttle, or the thousands of Americans that were lost on a clear September day, we've turned to poetry when we can't find quite the right words to express what we're feeling. So tonight we continue that tradition by hearing from some of our greatest, as well as some of our newest poets. Billy Collins, who is here with us, calls poetry the oldest form of travel writing because it takes us to places we can only imagine. So in that spirit, I'd like everyone to sit back or sit on the edge of your seats and enjoy the journey. Thank you very much. Poetry matters. Poetry, like all art, gives shape and texture and depth of meaning to our lives. It helps us know the world. It helps us understand ourselves. It helps us understand others, their struggles, their joys, the ways that they see the world. It helps us connect. In the beginning, there was the Word. And I think it's fair to say that if we didn't have poetry, that this would be a pretty barren world. In fact, it's not clear that we would survive without poetry. As Elizabeth once wrote, we encounter each other in words spiny or smooth, whispered or declaimed, words to consider, reconsider. That's the power of poetry. Sometimes it's only after reading a poem or writing a poem that we understand something that we already went through, that we felt, that we experienced. And that's why we often reach for poetry in big moments. When we fall in love, or lose somebody close to us, or leave behind one stage of life and enter into another. A good poem can make hard times a little easier to survive and make good times a lot sweeter. But poetry does not just matter to us as individuals, it matters to us as a people. The greatness of a country is not just the size of its military or the size of its economy or how much territory it controls. It's also measured by the richness of its culture. And America is America in part because of our poets and our artists and our musicians, all those who've shared their ideas and their stories and helped make us the vibrant and passionate and beautiful country that we are today.
Delayed, no doubt protecting the streets of our lovely city.
It's been a while since our last date, Batman. I thought you'd forsaken me.
Crime fighting leaves little time for affairs of the heart, Catwoman. But you're never far from my thoughts.
Those are the nicest words I've heard in a long time.
Speaking of words, I brought my handy copy of the complete Elizabeth Barrett Browning. After all, poetry opens both the mind and the heart.